Oathbreaker is one of the strongest subclasses in the game, adding raw damage potential with its level 7 aura and also some juicy thematic gameplay in the form of a true evil playthrough. With the advent of the new evil endings being added in patch 7 due out in September, I wanted to make an Oathbreaker Paladin that has the potential to either solo or party for honor mode in Baldur's Gate 3. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by uploading the knowledge of my videos. So with that being said, this build is pretty straightforward. We're going to take 7 levels into Oathbreaker Paladin and then 5 levels into War Cleric. This will deliver all the fun of the cleric spells, which we actually don't need a high wisdom score for since we're not relying on the damage for them, and a ton of great melee supplementation from the War Domain. Also, we'll have 2 feats plus 2 auras, which will help us greatly with survivability and damage output. Now, if you're using this for a solo build, I'd say go 5 levels into Cleric, then 7 levels into Paladin. We are delaying our extra attack from Paladin, but we also get an extra attack as a War Cleric. The trade-off is getting access to Spirit Guardians ASAP, as well as a plethora of spell slots for smites. This also prevents us from having to deal with the high cost of respecking. Remember, as an Oathbreaker, you have to pay to fix your oath before you can respec. If you aren't soloing, just go straight to, forward, 7 Paladin, 5 Cleric. You can mix it up as you see fit, but remember, this guide is meant to inspire you, not be used as a strict creed of how to play. But that's the entire gist of this video, and if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down and get back to enjoying Baldur's Gate 3. Before you head out, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if this video was helpful, as each one of those things has a huge effect on my channel. I also have a huge Baldur's Gate 3 playlist linked at the end of the video and below if you need help with any other subjects. But let's get started here on my guide for the best Oathbreaker build in Baldur's Gate 3. Loading into the game, we have character creation. Now, the selection of your race is entirely up to you. If you're taking this with a solo build and going through maybe, I would argue, a more min-max approach, I would say there are going to be some races that are going to stand out. Otherwise, please choose a race that makes sense for you and your playthrough. You purchased your game. Have fun with it. Don't listen to anyone who says you have to play a specific race, except for what I'm about to say because I'm right. No, it's not true. But still, my point here is if you're going with a solo build, the half-orc is a really good option, and it's because we get Relentless Endurance. If you reach 0 hit points, you regain 1 hit point instead of becoming down. This gives us a bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card that we can then use to keep us going through heals or potions, whatever it is. Also, you get Savage Attacks, so when you land a critical hit with a melee weapon attack, you deal an extra dice of weapon damage. That's always nice. Now, again, if I'm going with a solo build, the other one I would actually recommend is the Gith. And I like the cantrips they get access to, which are quite a lot. They got their mage hand, which is whatever, but eventually they'll get a cool jump that they can get access to, which is nice just to be able to traverse a lot of the game. And Long Strider, I believe it is. No, it's Misty Step, not Long Strider. So they'll get Mage Hand and Hand Sleep and Misty Step. But the big thing too that they get access to is Astral Knowledge. And why this is really important is it's going to give you proficiency in all skills of a chosen ability. So if you're playing through a Paladin, you're probably not going to have a high dexterity score, let alone a proficiency in maybe any of the stealth skills. Using Astral Knowledge will give you a proficiency in those dex-based skills such as sleight of hand and the such. So this is a really great option when you are going solo because it gives you access to a ton of things that you might not have had in preparation for any big checks that you've got. Now, since we are going with an Oathbreaker build, one thing I will say is I'm choosing a custom origin here, but you can definitely go with Dark Urge, which is just going to change our background selection and of course change the entire game in and of itself. But I definitely recommend the Dark Urge if you have not yet played it. It is going to be the consummate evil playthrough for you. For our subclass, this doesn't really matter, but, oh, I'm sorry, so we're on the wrong one. It does really matter. We're going to go click Cleric because our subclass is going to be the War Domain here. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, why aren't we going to start with Paladins who had access to heavy armor and all that action? Remember, the War Domain gives us access to heavy armor and martial weapons, so we might as well be a Paladin for all things considered. But the big thing, of course, is we're going to get access to War Priest. So when you make an unarmed or weapon attack, you can spend a War Priest charge to make an additional attack as a bonus action. So for all intents and purposes, we have an extra attack here at level 1 for our Cleric in a solo playthrough, which is quite nice. We also get Divine Favor, which is cool, but Shield of Faith is going to help increase our armor class by 2, which is always going to be fun. Cantrip wise, I'm definitely going to recommend Guidance here to give you that 1+1 D4. I'm going to recommend Blade Ward because this is going to help you mitigate a lot of damage from bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing attacks, which you're going to deal with quite a bit in the early game, of course. Now, we are also going to look at stuff. Yeah, I like that one. I was going to say Resistance, but I kind of like... the reason I don't like Resistance is it's a concentration ability. I like Thaumaturgy because it gives us an advantage on intimidation and performance checks. I hate Sacred Flame because it always misses. I don't know who made Sacred Flame, but they made it to miss. And our deity, of course, choose what makes sense for you and your character. If you go with a Gith, I think it's pretty cool to go with Vlaakith, but you can, of course, go with anyone else for that matter. You can go with anything that makes sense for your character, your build, your playthrough, and anything that kind of fits the overall theme of the RP you're going with. It's strictly a roleplay choice. If anything, it's just going to allow you to have certain conversational options here and there. Now, for our background, of course, too, please go with your roleplay instincts here. Go with whatever makes sense. Since we are talking about a bit of a... solo build, an honor mode solo build, that does lean us into a conversation of min-maxing. But if you're looking at this and not going to do solo, you're not going to do honor mode, any of those fun things, please just choose a background that makes sense. You know, hey, you know what, maybe you're a, I always say this one, but a noble son that decided to join a cleric order, or maybe you're an outlander who found the faith of Vlaakith and that brought you into the war domain and what have you, or a former entertainer who becomes a paladin and breaks the oath, or a criminal who it just relapses into becoming a criminal. Whatever it is, choose what makes sense for you. A good min-max option here is Guild Artisan, and the reason I like it is because it gives us access to both insight and persuasion as skill options. This means that we'll have these already pre-selected for us. We won't have to waste those choices. I'm actually going to switch this back to half orc here. Now, for our skill options, again, since we are starting as a cleric here and we have Guild Artisan, we already have insight and persuasion, so we already have a conversation skill. Now, if you go with half orc, you get intimidation, which is nice because this gives us an additional proficiency already invested here. So those are good things all the way around. Everything else, though, history can be pretty nice. Medicine's okay. The rest of this is just not going to matter. Religion, you'll probably barely make a couple rolls here and there. In fact, probably you could go with religion over history if you really want to. Really, it's just going to come down to you. The three of these are kind of negligible, but you really do want to make sure you've got deception, intimidation, or persuasion. One of those conversational skills, especially since you are doing a solo playthrough if you want to follow that route. As far as our ability points go, we're going to go with 16 strength, 10 dexterity, 13 constitution because we just have an extra point left over, 8 intelligence because we don't need it. Now, wisdom, you can go either 10 or 12, and then 16 charisma. If you go to 10 wisdom, definitely bring your constitution up to 14. I think this is probably the optimal route. We're not really using our wisdom for spells. We're using it just to have it here at this point. This also will help us out with not being crowd controlled as easily, but our amount of cleric spells is basically our charisma modifier plus our cleric level. So that will always be 5 plus 1 pretty much, right? Or I'm sorry, 5 plus 0 in this case. So right now our cleric level is 1, so we'll have 1 prepared spell for cleric. So I would say that's kind of dealer's choice here. Constitution, if you need more health, I would say if you're a little more confident with your health, you are going to be using heavy armor, just go with a 12 wisdom just to have more prepared spells. You'll have, basically it's the difference between having 5 or 6 spells prepared for you at the end of your cleric levels. That's the real difference here, right? So go with whatever kind of makes sense for you. I'll just do this, assuming that you're going to go with 10 wisdom. In which case, definitely start with command, because you're going to be jumping onto the ship. You want to use command. Since you are going to be doing a solo playthrough, you want to use command to try to get the two-handed sword off of the commander from the ship. Remember, you're a cleric. You can swap these out as much as you want, but outside of that, I'd probably go with bless just to give myself some additional capabilities here. But that is our character here, our creation. Let's jump into leveling this guy up. So leveling up our character, like I said, is going to be very straightforward. Once we jump into level 2 Cleric, we're going to get access to Guided Strike as a Channel Divinity, so you gain a +1 bonus to your attack roll. This is going to be great to help us hit those really hard to hit creatures or whatever it is. For more spells, again, when it comes to level 1, we pretty much want command for that first portion of the ship, but this can also help us when we're doing any kind of solo playthrough, trying to get something to flee, move closer, freeze, drop a weapon on the ground, drop its weapon, whatever it is, or I'm sorry, drop to the ground or drop its weapon, whatever it is. Also, bless. Those two are really going to be a big driving force for you, and also you can move into the healing word or cure wounds. I would probably go with healing word since it's a bonus action, but since you don't have to worry about healing people other than yourself, Cure Wounds is actually pretty good. It's only distances melee, but that doesn't really matter for us, right? Because we're going to be in melee the entire time. So let's go ahead and take that and move forward. We jump into level 3 here. This is going to give us access to our level 2 spells. So the big one that's really going to be huge is going to be Hold Person. We want that ability to have some sort of additional CC. And I would even drop a heal in exchange for blindness. But don't sleep on stuff like Aid. Aid is really nice one that you can pop onto yourself, and it lasts until long rest, and you don't have to worry about it after that. Also, a big one too is going to be Enhance Ability, right? Bestow a magical enchantment upon your ally that it gain advantage on ability check to the chosen ability. So you can use this in the middle of conversations to help push yourself into not winning, but it can help, winning, to getting success. Now, another big one too. This is now I'm bringing these up now because the slot for these is going to depend upon where you're at in the game. But silence is going to be crucial since you are doing a solo playthrough. You're going to want to shut down casting as much as you can using a silence ability. So we'll go ahead and accept this here. And remember, most of the stuff that all the stuff I'm talking about so far, none of it is reliant upon your wisdom score. You know, Hold Person is the only one really that's really going to take a look at your wisdom, and even then, I don't think it does. I think it looks at their wisdom. I can't remember now 100% off the top of my head. But if it can't move or take action, blah, blah, blah. A wisdom save, yeah. So it's a wisdom save against their wisdom. It doesn't use your wisdom as any kind of tomfoolery here. Yes, it does. I don't know why I said that. Yes, it will use your wisdom, but it's a wisdom save for them. Pretty much outside of that, though, silence is not going to require a save. All within our silence and immune to thunder damage. It is an outright thing. It just turns on. So that is a nice capability to have. The only one, like I said, is Hold Person minus the mental gymnastics I made to get there. So when it comes to your next cantrip, you can use Light. It's going to help you once you come into Act 2. Produce Flame, I'm not really too crazy on. You can go with Sacred Flame if you really want to go down that route. There's nothing wrong with it. I'll even click it here. But now let's talk about our feat. So when it comes to your feat selection, the first one I recommend is Alert. You want to have that increase to your initiative here, and you can't be surprised. You're never going to be taken in a situation where someone's just going to immediately jump up and kill you. So having Alert here is absolutely crucial. That +5 bonus to initiative and can't be surprised is I can't say it enough. Now, we are going to be using a sword and a shield, so I'm going to be skipping Great Weapon Master here. Some of the ones that do stand out to me that you can go with, I'll tell you the one I'm going to go with, and you can kind of go from there. If you think you need more hit points, go with Tough. And remember, you're going to scale into this later. Our first one is going to be Alert no matter what. But Tough you're going to get from your Paladin level. I'm sorry, your second feat you're going to get from your Paladin levels. So feel it out. Do you really feel like you need more hit points? Go with Tough. It's going to increase retroactively. And you'll get a ton more hit points at that point in the game. Warcaster is nice here, giving you an advantage on saving throws to maintain concentration. We will be using concentration because of Spirit Guardians and the such. You also get a reaction for Shocking Grasp, which is cool. But you can circumvent Warcaster and just go instead with Resilient Constitution. When we were talking about splitting our Wisdom, our Constitution, if you went with 13 Wisdom rather than 14, this would put you at 14 Wisdom. 13 rather than 14 Constitution. This would put you at 14 Constitution from the Resilience. The big thing here, though, is that it gives us a proficiency in that ability saving throw. So now we add our proficiency score to any concentration rolls we're going to have to make. So it's a very nice one to go with. Now, of course, outside of those is just Old Faithful ability improvement. Now you can go with Strength to do more melee damage, or Charisma to add to your aura that increases your defense and your aura of hate, which is going to increase your raw damage. Probably Charisma is a better bet just to give you that. It's a flat damage increase, whereas Strength, yeah, it's going to give you a flat damage increase as well, but I kind of like the ability to give me a two-pronged benefit with the additional Charisma. So I would go with whatever makes sense for you. If I had to choose, I would probably go with Alert and Tough, just because they're a little bit more passive and easy to go with. But if I really wanted to rely on my Spirit Guardians, I'd go with Alert and Resilient Constitution. That's probably the combination I'd go with most likely. Jumping into level 5, our last level as Cleric, we get the most important spell in the build, and that is going to be Spirit Guardians. Now, the nice thing is we don't have to memorize it. It's part of our kind of repertoire as a war domain, and we'll get access to Crusader's Mantle, which I don't really care about. But still, we'll have our prepared spells. Remember, since it is a domain spell, it's always prepared, which is really cool. But we also get access to Glyph of Warding, which is a really good ability. Protection from Energy is cool. Bestow, that's what I was looking for. Remove Curse, which you will want to use here and there. Revivify, which you'll never use. But Animate Dead, which is great. You can create undead with weapons from the ranged counterpart here with Animate Dead, but I don't think we'll be able to really tap into it here. And that's important for the Aura of Hate, and I'll talk about Aura of Hate more later. Outside of that, though, you get stuff like Beacon of Hope. Your allies will regain their max hit points possible when healed. This is nice. You just have to keep in mind that if you use this, you're going to shut off your Spirit Guardians. So this is something that you can use in a dire circumstance of you cast this spell, then use a healing potion, and it'll heal you the max amount that healing potion could possibly heal. But I'd say you're probably good with like a combination of stuff like this to give you some range capability, some additional health, some ability to shut down casters, to shut down people in general with hold person, and blindness, which is always going to be good just to kind of shut down attacks and make it so people can't cast spells against you. So now we have our 5th level here into Cleric. We accept and we pivot now into Paladin. Now the oath does not matter, because the second you choose Paladin, you should go break your oath so that you can become a Oathbreaker. And I will show off the Oathbreaker abilities, but we're going to push through this section and ignore the spells that we get from the Paladin, our oath as it is. In fact, actually, let's stop right here. Let me go break the oath, make it a little bit more transparent. We've gone ahead and broken our oath, and as an Oathbreaker, we now have Spiteful Suffering. This is going to be a really good ability here because this is going to be our Channel Oath charge. The target now takes 1 to 4 necrotic damage each turn, and attack rolls against it have advantage. This lasts for 3 turns. So this is going to allow us to pour on damage to really hard to hit targets by giving us that advantage. This is going to be nice for bosses. All those crunchy targets, while also adding in a little bit of necrotic damage to help us out as well. Jumping back to leveling us, though, we have access to our level 2 spells now as a Paladin, and of course a fighting style. So you can go with defense to add an additional +1 to your armor class, or dueling when you blah 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 blah. Basically, you're going to get 2 additional damage. I tried to read it, my brain just crapped out. You're going to get 2 additional damage with your weapon if you're not using a 2-handed weapon or a versatile weapon in 2 hands. If you use a longsword and a shield, you'll still get the +2 damage here. I'm going to go with defense, and I want to maximize my armor class so that I can just have as much AC as possible to help me deal with a lot of the harder fights in the game. As far as my spells go, remember, we want to focus on anything that doesn't have concentration, because we have Spirit Guardians unlocked for us, so we're probably going to be using that more often than not. So looking at a lot of these abilities like Wrathful Smite, that's concentration. Looking at Thunderous Smite, that is not concentration, but it is an action and a bonus action. So think about that if you go ahead and use it. But Heroism, it is also concentration. Bless, it's a concentration. So a lot of your abilities are really going to be pretty quote-unquote neutered here, because you won't be able to use most of them. But feel free to bring the smites with you in case you're in a situation where, you know what, my Spirit Guardians isn't on right now. Let me hit something big with a Wrathful Smite or a Searing Smite. Wrathful Smite is nice because it does frighten, and we're going to hinge upon a lot of frighten capabilities as this build goes on. And a lot of this stuff too is also part of your kit as a Cleric too, so keep those things in mind. We'll push forward here into level 3, which gives us Divine Health so that we cannot be diseased, which is lovely. But we now get Dreadful Aspect, which is an ability to frighten things in a 30-foot radius, which is really nice. And it lasts for 2 turns, which is cool, but we also get Control Undead. So you're going to use Control Undead for your Paladin aura, your Oathbreaker aura of Hate. You use Control Undead on an undead with a weapon, and it will increase their capability. You can also use this on Cambions to increase their capabilities as well, because Aura of Hate will only work on those targets. Outside of that, it's just kind of is what it is. Oh, spells though, you're going to get access to Inflict Wounds. You can use this. You're going to be using your spell slots mainly for Smites and Hellish Rebuke, which is cool because it is a reaction. So it's a fun one to have access to. Into our level 4 capability here, I'm going to go with, I'm just going to go with Tough because it's just easy for me to kind of visualize the increase to the hit points. But Resilient Constitution is also really good because it's going to help us keep our Spirit Guardians online. At level 5, though, we're going to get access to extra attack. So now we have an extra attack whenever we do a primary attack as a Paladin. But we now have an extra attack too from our War Domain Cleric from our bonus action. So lots of extra attacks online now. From our level 2 abilities, unfortunately, almost all of them are concentration, for the exception here of protection from poison, which you can get, I think, from your Paladin, your Cleric kit as well. You can use these if you want, but they are concentration, so you cannot use the great benefit of them. I'm just going to put it in just to have all the smites on my bar for whatever reason. Into level 6 Paladin, we get Aura of Protection, and this is going to go off our Charisma modifier here, right? So that's a +3 now to our defense. It's a flat +3 to all of our saving throws, which is great. And that's going to accept this into our level 7 Paladin, which now gets us access to Aura of Hate, which you can see here gives you an additional 3 damage dealt with melee weapons. So the aura disappears if you fall unconscious. So you just have this on all the time, and you're now going to, if you have your Charisma set to 18, this would be a 4. It's all off your Charisma modifier. So we're good to go now with all of our levels and our abilities. Let's put this all together and talk a little bit more about it. So you can see we have quite a bit to take a look at. Even if I just click our Cleric abilities, you can see we have quite a lot to take advantage of. I don't know why you keep these, it kept the, I click Cleric and it says, oh, well, here's all of your abilities. Like, you actually showed me more than that. So you can see here's all of our, I'm going to spread it out a little bit more so you can see. We have all of our Paladin stuff kind of over here in this region. There we go. And majority of our Cleric stuff is all over here. All spells are just kind of mixed around. So we will get access to Darkness to inflict wounds, which is really cool. Those abilities do come with our Paladin kit, right? But we have plenty of spells that we can use aside of this. So mainly our big one is going to be Spirit Guardians, and using the necrotic version of it. And we can upcast this to level 4 as well to make it to, it does 4 to 32 damage, which is going to be really cool. And you can see we have a ton of abilities as well. Total spell slots as well, we have 5, +3, +3, +2. So we have a lot of really good juicy smites that we can smash into people with. This is 12 to 57 on this one. This is 9 to 33. So a lot of really good damage is coming out of those smites all the way across the board. And we jump over to our War Priest charges. Those War Priest charges we'll be using for that extra attack. And we also have Channel Divinity with 2 charges, getting Guiding Strike to get a +10 bonus to our attack roll. Hit those targets that are really hard to hit. Use that in conjunction with our Channel Oath capability of Spiteful Suffering to give us an advantage on those targets as well. So we have a +10 to hit with an advantage. We're pretty much always going to be hitting on targets that we need to hit for 3 turns, which is really nice. And of course, we also have Lay on Hands, which is going to be great for ourselves, but you can use Greater Lay on Hands for 2 charges to heal yourself for 28 healing, or cure it to remove any disease, which we can't be diseased with, or poisons. So you have those capabilities, or a lesser, which just does 14 healing onto your target, which is going to be you if you're playing solo. But a lot of really fun capabilities here, and we will talk about this in the itemization section, but using Dance Macabre is also going to be a really cool ability for this build, just to add 4 ghouls. It's really thematic. The ghouls will not get the benefit of Aura of Hate, unfortunately, because we are a because they don't have weapons. And Aura of Hate, click the Cleric button again, as you see here, it says +3 additional 3 slashing damage to damage dealt with melee weapons. So if they don't have a melee weapon, this will not work for Aura of Hate. I was talking about Animate Dead, and Animate Dead, you can summon up skeletons with bows. Those won't work here with Aura of Hate. I don't know why I said that. It is wrong. It will not help because it's slashing and melee weapons specifically. So that's where you're going to get from Control Undead. And this is because this is nearby fiends and undead. So let's put all this together and talk about itemization. Opening up our conversation on itemization, the first thing I want to talk about is the Blood of Lathander. Unfortunately, I don't have it in this playthrough, so I'm going to just kind of show you this picture and talk about it a little bit. So the big things here that we're going to get are, obviously it's a +3, so you're going to have like a 95% to hit with this bad boy. It's going to be pretty much the weapon you use for the entirety of the game with this build. If you want. You don't need to, but I think it's a really good one. We'll talk about some other really strong one-handed weapon options, but you get this at the endish of Act 1, and it can carry you throughout Act 2, especially in Act 2. It's going to be really helpful because you have Lathander's Blessing. Once per long rest, when your hit points are reduced to 0, you regain 2d6 hit points. So what's cool about this is, if you have Relentless Endurance as a half-orc, this basically gives you 2 get-out-of-jail-free cards. Lathander's Blessing will be one of them, and then the half-orc will be another. Lathander's Light here sheds light in a 20-foot radius. In combat, fiends and undead standing in the light are blinded, and if they fail a DC 14 Constitution throw, that is. What's nice about that is, too, is you're going to deal with a ton of undead and a lot of fiends throughout the rest of this game, but the light is going to be so huge in Act 2. It will pretty much be, it'll not trivialize, but it'll make Act 2 a lot easier just because of this mace. And lastly, you have Sunbeam, which is a level 6 spell that you can recharge every long rest, but it's going to be a real cool, fun Kamehameha Goku blast that'll really help you out in a pinch. But that's the items I don't have. Let's go into our weapons now. So starting off with what I do have is the Sacred Star. So this natively does an additional 1d4 radiant damage, which is really cool. On a hit, inflict 1 turn of radiating orb upon the target, which is really lovely. Undead creatures struck by this weapon are possibly turned. Now, of course, turned is the affected entity must move away from the creature that turned it. It can't take actions, bonus actions, or reactions other than dash or try to escape an effect that prevents movement. So it's a really cool capability that helps you to really do some extra damage here to undead, but also is a +2, and you get tenacity built into it, and you also get Dawn Burst Strike, which is nice in that it is replenishable on a short rest. Deal additional radiant damage equal to your proficiency bonus by the time you get this. That's a +4, as you can see right there. It says 1d4 +4. On hit, light erupts around you in a 10-foot area. Enemies in the light must succeed a DC 13 Constitution saving throw or be blinded, which is awesome. I know this is an Oathbreaker build, but you can still do a lot of really fun things with radiant damage that you really can't do with necrotic damage. So we're going to have as much fun as we can with this with the Sacred Star. Some other really good options, though, are pretty much any good one-handed sword or weapon that you find. Even good versatile ones like Faithbreaker here, you're going to get right at the beginning of the game in Act 1. And it's really strong because it has this capability right here, Absolute Power. It's going to do Radiant, it's going to do Force damage. It's just such a good ability. And it has a ton of really great weapon skills. It's a good amount of damage. You can't go wrong. Also in Act 1 is Falar Luve, which you could also use in lieu of Blood of Lathander for the entire game, or until you get the Blood of Lathander, because this is going to be a +1, performance +1 as well, which is kind of negligible. But Falar Luve's melody is going to either give you Sing or Shriek, which is a Bane or a Bless, depending on which one you choose. The nice thing about Shriek, though, is also will give an additional 1 to 4 thunder damage, which is always lovely. It is a finesse weapon, but that doesn't matter. It's finesse weapon means it will use your dex if it is higher. So it's a really cool weapon there. Also is another weapon here in Act 2, there it is the Sword of Life Stealing, which you could use for a long time. On a critical hit, the target takes an additional 10 necrotic damage as long as it isn't a construct or undead, and you gain 10 hit points. It's just a nice way to get yourself a little bit of healing off of any crits that you do. In Act 3, some of the big ones are the Blackguard or Blackguard Sword. On a hit infused with one of your smites, which is going to be a lot of them, the target must succeed a Constitution saving throw or become dazed. And the nice thing about dazed too here, it has disadvantage on Wisdom saving throws, and they can't take reactions and lose the dexterity bonus to their armor class. A Wisdom saving throw would be Hold Person, so you can use that to your advantage if you so wish. Also, another good one is Belm. It's just a really solid one because it gives you perfectly balanced strike, so you can now use your bonus action to do an additional hit if you're out of War Priest charges, and you get Whirlwind Attack as well here. Just does some AoE damage. Really nice because each one is a separate attack roll. So if you crit on those attack rolls, you then get the advantage of being able to do a smite off of them. So one thing I did not talk about in the feat section is polearm mastery. Because if you do want to go with a polearm, you can go with a polearm and put it in one hand like a spear. And polearm mastery grants you a bonus action to do like a 1d4 attack, but that can actually be smiteable. I didn't choose that because I went with War Cleric, and some of you might bring that up in the comment section below, but just want you to know that's why I did not choose that. Because I'm also going to talk about some polearms, is why I bring that up. But another weapon here that is important is the Drake Throat Glaive. Not for the weapon itself, but the Draconic Elemental Weapon capability here. You can imbue any weapon with a Draconic element. So if I equip this, and I press this button, I can imbue acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder onto any weapon, and also plus 1 bonus to its attack rolls. So what's nice about this is I can put this, I can go ahead, I'll even just show you. We'll toss this on the ground. We're going to press thunder because it's one of the least resisted ones, and I'm going to click, oh, I got to get closer to it. I got to click this, we'll click that. We'll go right on the weapon. So now, this weapon has been imbued with that elemental might, so it's going to do 1d4 thunder and 1d4 radiant, and I just simply take this off and put that on, and we're good to go. So you can see how that gives you a huge advantage. You get that in Act 2. It's not a weapon you're actually going to use, but it's one you're going to hold on to for that capability. You can use the Flail of Ages, but you get that in Act 3, so that's neither here nor there. And just to quickly talk about them in case you do want to go with two-handed weapons and you aren't doing a solo build, you can go with stuff like Faithbreaker at the very beginning because it is versatile. But Corpse Grinder is really good in Act 2. Halberd of Vigilance is amazing in Act 2 as well because when you make an attack roll as a reaction, you make it with advantage and plus 1 bonus to initiative and advantage on perception ability checks. Really great. Of course, the granddaddy of all two-handed weapons is Baldur's Giant Slayer, which can turn you into a giant and you just do such a disgusting amount of damage. It's such a good two-handed weapon, but this is in Act 3 when you get this. Those are your weapons though, so let's go now into some armor and jewelry. So for our armor discussion, let's start with helmet. I'm just wearing a cool helmet for this video, so we're going to take that off right now. When you start the game, the Helmet of Smiting is probably going to be the one you're going to stick with. It's really good. When you apply a condition with one of your smite spells, you gain temp hit points equal to your charisma modifier. It's just a 3 free temp hit points. You'll quickly swap this off for something like the Grimskull Helm. Attackers can't land crit hits on the wearer and grants resistance to fire damage as well as Hunter's Mark. A great helmet to have as soon as you deal with that boss in the game. But also right after that is the Flawed Helldusk helmet, which is a really good one instead. The wielder has a +2 bonus to saving throws against spells. It's just nice to have because you also get a Constitution saving throw +1. I really like this helmet. It's probably one of my favorite helmets in the entire game. When you jump into Act 3, you do have Servok's Horn Helm, which gives you dark vision. Also, it helps with your critical hits by reducing them from 20 now to 19. You can't be frightened and you cannot be afflicted by other emotion-altering conditions with that Constitution saving throw +1. It's really good because it helps with concentration, but it also makes so you are more likely to crit, and it is a really strong option here. The other really good one, though, is the Helm of Baldur, because this will heal you every turn for 2 hit points, and I'm going to tell you why that's important in just a second. Also gives you a +1 bonus to armor class and saving throws. You can't be stunned, and attackers can't critical hit you. I think this is probably the better, safer choice to go with, and I'm going to explain why when we talk about the glove section. But this heals us. It gives us a ton of AC. Our AC is up to 24 right now, and that's absolutely juicy. So I really like that about that. That helmet right there, and it plays very well with this, the Reviving Hands. So this gives us Aegis Palm. When you heal a creature, it gains the effect of Blade Ward. When you revive a creature, it gains the effect of Death Ward. There are gloves that you can get from Zevlor in the Emerald Grove, which are very similar. They give you Blade Ward. They get resistance to slashing, piercing, and blunt. It's the same thing as Blade Ward. But the problem with it is this build is not reliant upon healing itself in the same way that I've built those gloves around a lot of my other builds, where, hey, you've got so many ways to heal yourself. But the Helm of Baldur triggers a heal on you. So every time your turn ends or begins, you automatically get healed for 2 hit points. You automatically get Blade Ward. So these two work very well in conjunction. Another really good option for gloves, though, is the Luminous Gloves. When the wearer deals radiant damage, the target receives 2 turns of Radiating Orb. Now, Radiating Orb will reduce the attack roll of things by 2. Well, it's -1 for each turn remaining, so this will give us 2 turns. And that will make it so that it's a -2 attack roll, meaning it's way harder to hit you on top of your 24 AC. Now you use the Luminous Gloves in conjunction with the Coruscation Ring, so now they'll have basically 3 Radiating Orbs on them. Well, I'm sorry, they'll have 4 turns of Radiating Orb whenever you hit them with your smite. It is absolutely destructive. They'll never ever hit you. So you use those things in conjunction if you want. There's plenty of other gloves in the game. Use whatever ones make sense for you, but once you get into Act 3, the Reviving Hands make a lot of sense, and in Act 2, Act 1, the Luminous Gloves are amazing because you can use them with the Luminous Armor that you get in Act 1 as well, which triggers off of Radiant damage as well. So those are 2 really good glove combinations. When it comes to your chest piece, I'm using Reaper's Embrace. All incoming damage is reduced by 2, and you can activate it so you cannot be moved against your will, but you have a disadvantage on dex saving throws, which does suck. You also get Howl of the Dead here, let a bone-chilling howl that numbs all nearby targets. So Spellcaster has advantage on attack rolls against the affected entity. Just another way to get more advantage onto targets so you can kill them quicker. But the Adamantine Splint Mail that you get from doing the Adamantine Forge is a really good early chest piece that you can use throughout the entirety of Act 2. You'll only use it in Act 2 because that's when you get it. But another good one, of course, that Luminous Skill Mail I talked about. But the Dwarven Splint Mail is also really good. 1 less piercing damage, +2 Constitution, which is the big portion of this. That's really important. And +1 Strength bonus to Strength saving throws and checks, which is really great. You can use like the Hellstrider's armor at the end of Act 3 if you want. But I like the Reaper's Embrace because you get it at the end of Act 2. It has a lot of good AC, and it reduces damage by 2. All across the board, I think it's a really strong chest piece, and it's very thematic, so I like it a lot. Back pieces, Cloak of Protection is the go-to here for the armor class and saving throw. If you want to go with more indirect defense, Cloak of Displacement is good because it gives you disadvantage on attack rolls that target the wearer, but I like this one because it's just a flat AC bonus and saving throw bonus no matter what. No strings attached, so I like that quite a bit. Some other glove options that I forgot to talk about, which are over here, that I'm somehow not smart about, is the Gloves of Heroism you'll get in Act 1. This, whenever you cast a Channel Oath, you'll get Heroism for free, which is great. The Gauntlets of the War Master here, this is not good for this build. The Gauntlets of Hill Giant Strength is good for this build. Sets the wearer's strength to 23. So I would only use this if you really didn't want to use the Reviving Hands and the Helm of Baldur on. Like if you wanted to go all in on damage, I'd go like this with Servok's Helm and the Gauntlets of Hill Giant Strength if I really wanted to do that. But I think Survivability is the way to go in Honor solo mode, so that's what I have kind of kitted out here. For our necklace, I have the Amulet of the Devout to gain 2 bonus to spell save DC, but you gain an additional use of Channel Divinity. That's really what I wanted it for. Options, though, outside of it that are probably, honestly, better options are the Amulet of Greater Health. It sets your Constitution score to 23, and you have advantage on Constitution saving throws, which means your concentration checks. So this is probably the better amulet. I just wanted to go with the Amulet of Devout for whatever reason, but I think the Amulet of Greater Health is the way to go. You don't have to worry about item conflicts in a solo playthrough, which is something to consider too. If you're going a non-solo playthrough, maybe go with the Devout. In Act 1, though, you can go with like the Moondrop pendant here. When the wearer has 50% hit points or less, they don't provoke opportunity attacks. You can get out of a sticky situation. Even the Spellcrux amulet is really useful because you put it on restore a spell slot and you take it off, and it then replenishes on a long rest. The Amulet of the Harpers is also really good for advantage on wisdom saving throws, so that you're not CC'd as much, but mainly just gives you access to shield for free, which is great. For our boots, we are using the Boots of Persistence here. Gives you freedom of movement and long strider for free, so you don't have to cast those spells if you have them through a scroll or whatever. But having that online all the time is great. They're a little expensive, and you only get them in Act 3. Until then, though, just go with mobility boots. Misty Step here, Click Heels here. Helldusk boots you get at the end of Act 3 as well. They're pretty good, but just you get them in Act 3, so I would probably choose the Boots of Persistence over them. But the Boots of Striding are also really good, because when you cast a spell that requires concentration, like Spirit Guardians, Now you gain momentum for 1 turn. So while you're concentrating on that, you also cannot be knocked prone or moved against your will. They're very good early boots that are probably going to last you, unless you want to go with mobility boots, all the way up to the boots of persistence. Real big fans of them. For our rings, we're going to go with the Ring of Regeneration. This is just another form of healing per turn to kind of add into these capabilities, but also the Killer Sweetheart just to give us guaranteed critical hits. Other things you can go with, though, are the Crusher's Ring in Act 1 is going to give you +10 movement. Coruscation Ring, which is going to help out with more of those radiating orbs that we talked about. I don't have it here for some reason, but the Corroding Band, the Corrupting Band, the one that just adds a flat 2 acid damage. That's a good one here. But Spurred Band is also great during combat when the wearer starts their turn with 50% hit points or less. They gain momentum. Just think of these as ways to get out of really sticky situations so you can run away from an engagement and then come re-engage in a different way. Now for our bow, I have the Drakefire short bow because this gives me resistance to fire and cold damage as well as a free cast of haste. It's probably the best bow in the game for this build, but if you want to go with more damage, definitely go with the Dead Shot. This in conjunction with Cerebok's Helm, you'll now be critting on an 18 or higher. So that is a real great bonus that you can get out of this. I just like the survivability of a Drakefire bow. For our shield, we're using the Shield of the Undevout. Your foes have disadvantage on saving throws to resist your spells or actions that inflict fear. Because you are an Oathbreaker Paladin, you have that capability. So this is going to give them a disadvantage on saving against your fear, which is cool. And you get an additional level 1 spell slot, as well as a Shield Bash, always great. You can end up with Viconia's Walking Fortress if you want more AC, but I'd rather go with the other portions of this, mainly the spell slot. That's a whole other smite. Reflective Shell and Warding Bond are things that are great and all, but I just kind of want the additional smite. It is giving you an advantage on saving throws against spells, though, which is really cool. So do keep that in mind. And spell attack rolls against you have a disadvantage. Those are all real great things to take into consideration if you want to pick up Viconia's Walking Fortress instead. But in end of Act 1, you can get the Adamantine Shield, which is really strong, and it also gives reeling, and you can't take, nothing can land crit hits on you, which is always really solid. In end of Act 2, you can get Ketheric Shield, which is going to give you a bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls, which is really nice, and advantage on dex saving throws. Dex saving throws are also going to be nice for like fireball, stuff like that. Those are dex saving throws. Lastly, we have the Shield of Devotion, which just gives us an additional level 1 spell slot, and also Shield of Devotion Aid. So you can have a level 3 aid cast without wasting an actual spell slot. You can just use this to cast it. So you can see we have quite a lot of weapons and items to take advantage of, and it's really going to be up to you and how you want to make this character. I've gone with this build on a sword and board type of build, but go with whatever makes sense for you if you decide to do this outside of solo. Now, before we jump into combat, one last thing I want to talk about is Dance Macabre. You won't get this until Act 3, and depending on how you approach Act 3, you can either blitz your way right to it, or it's going to be at whatever point you get it. But this is a really good capability here because it's going to give us 4 ghouls that fight alongside you. That's going to be invaluable to your playthrough in the harder fights of Act 3. I recommend you blitz into this if you're jumping into Act 3. It requires this. The Necromancy of Thay book from Act 1. You carry it all the way across to Act 3. You go to a place in Act 3 with no spoilers, and you will be able to get access to this, as well as every time you do a long rest, you start with 20 temporary hit points. It's a real great way to jump into the 3rd act and have a lot of really good punching power. Let's put this all together and show off some combat. So I started this combat, and I got lucky and crit hit the hell out of this guy. So let's start off with showing how I'm going to crit this dude. I hit him pretty hard too here. Let me take a look. So we hit him for 23, 5, and 3 radiant damage. And he, of course, got radiating orb from that as well. So he got hit with quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead. We have all these spells slots. I'm going to go ahead and use a level 3 smite. Actually, you know what? Yeah, we'll go ahead and do a level 3 smite. There we go. Level 33 damage into him. And everyone's going to be able to take pot shots at me. I've gone ahead too and turned on my oh, okay, careful there. My Spirit Guardians to do necrotic damage right now. And I've also turned on a elixir here to give me an additional action, of course. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is also elixirs that are persistent. So I have the Elixir of Cloud Giant Strength on. I would recommend outside of that, though, the Elixir of Peerless Focus to give you an advantage on concentration saves and being charmed. That's a really good one. I think it's just going to come down to you. I want to show off really cool big damage numbers. So I went with Elixir of Cloud Giant Strength here. But please go with whatever makes sense for you and what you're doing in your situation. I don't even know where everything else went. And there we go. Okay, so I healed, right, for 3 more hit points, and now I have Blade Ward active. So I am now going to be able to do disgusting things to people. So let's use Dawnburst Strike, because that's going to be fun, just to show that off to you guys. You can see that do its damage right over here. And everyone just got hit with Spirit Guardians. Needs 18 to hit, they rolled a 32. Nah, I was going to crit it. And you can see I'm rolling now for the Dawnburst Strike as it explodes to everyone else. And, hey, you know what? It missed this person over here. Let's tenacity it. So we did tons of damage all the way around. And you do want to make sure, too, you have all of your Divine Smites turned on and asking you. You don't want them to just go ahead and use it, because then that's not going to be fun for you. But let's go ahead now. And I haven't even used Dance Macabre because I want people to attack me. I don't want things to get pulled away. Let's go ahead and just swing again. Okay, well, we killed her. Let's go over here, swing again. And what I did right there was I used my War Priest charge. Okay, and we'll just use it level 1, Radiating Orb, and we'll go ahead and use our extra attack. And Divine Smite again. I'm doing the low level ones just so I have more and more to use. I stupidly used a Potion of Flying beforehand. And you can see that she couldn't even return that attack, right? So I'm trying to place myself at the end of this turn in a spot where Spirit Guardians hits both of them. And it just about did right there. Right there. We'll stay right there. So I just want this to go through. I want people to attack me just to show you how tanky this build can be, right? Things are missing me left and right. Uh-oh, I took 5 damage. Whatever. Just shield blow into it. Knock him prone. Okay, missed me. Miss. And I mean, this is, of course, not the hardest enemies in the game. But you can see how what this build can become with high armor class. And we're not going to wait until Act 3 to have that 24 armor class. If you're using heavy armor, oh, look at that. Look at that Spirit Guardians activating. That's why we like Spirit Guardians so much. And one thing, too, to consider with Spirit Guardians, even if they save against this, the Wisdom save against this, it's still going to do half damage, and that's what makes it so crucial. Upcasting this would allow me to do even more damage, but this is just level 3 Spirit Guardians. If we had gone with level 4 Spirit Guardians here, level 4 Spirit Guardians, you can see this would do a little bit more. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong one. We're on level 3 Spirit Guardians, so it's doing 3 to 24, but it can do 4 to 32. I apologize for getting that mixed up. But that triggers every time my combat starts if they're within that little radius, right? Let's go ahead and do this. Let's smite that. Let's even, you know what? Let's get cheeky here. Let's go ahead and use like a Spiteful Suffering on this person. Okay, now we have advantage on them, and that's just going to be a guaranteed hit. Remember, we still have, you can see how everything's blinking right now. It's because we've used our primary actions. We still have a bonus action, and we have War Priest charges. So those will replenish on long rest. These will replenish on short rests. So we at least can have our channels up and active pretty often. But you can use Heartstopper here to lose an action. Like, there's a lot of really great things that we could do in this situation. Let's just go ahead and hit standard, though, and we'll blow them up with the level 4 smite. So you can see we're really pouring on tons of damage with this build, even though it's a tanky Oathbreaker Paladin build focused on staying alive. Hey, still got a bonus action? Let's go ahead and do it. There we go. So what you should consider with that War Priest charge, it will have an extra attack like it just had right there. So we were able to do even more attacks in that situation. We were just swinging in deep. When you turn on a potion of haste or a potion of speed, as it were, you just have so many abilities to do things. So we still have one more person left, but I don't want to have to run all the way over there. So this is pretty much the gist of this build. You can see that this focuses on a lot of defense. It focuses on a lot of offense, though, at the same time. Like I said, you don't need to wait until Act 3 to be this juggernaut. You're going to have 20 plus armor class in the latter portions of Act 1. It's just really going to be about pushing through Act 1, getting Spirit Guardians online as fast as possible so that you have this persistent amount of damage available to you. As soon as you start getting into your Paladin levels, every single level you're going to get even stronger. As soon as you hit Paladin 2, really, that's when it really starts to get really, really strong, right? Because that's when your smites unlock. But then extra attack at Paladin 5, and then Paladin 7, you get access to that Aura of Hate, giving you that raw damage increase. There's just so much damage in this build. Takes a little time to get online, but you're tapping into a big font of that damage by turning on Spirit Guardians early in the build. If you have any questions or any recommendations on how you might would change this build, go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. I know a real big one, like I said, is going Polearm Mastery and choosing that additional bonus action to do the smite, but I would rather do the War Priest charges and get a full-fledged swing and then turn that into a smite for me. The advantage of course, the Polearm Mastery is that it doesn't require a resource. You always have that active. So you could even use this in conjunction with the build if you so wish. You could probably even go with like Shadowheart's Spear if you wanted to do something like that. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one. Keep in mind, or not keep in mind, but be on the lookout for a solo honor mode playthrough I'm going to be doing with this build. So I'll be posting up as a VOD on the channel, trying to do it in as many episodes as possible, like 3 or 4 episodes, something like that. But again, have a good one and take care.